Hey, Prime members! Are you tired of ads interfering with your favorite podcasts? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free podcasts. That's amazon.com/ad-free podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
The Agile brand.
Welcome to the B2B Agility Podcast, where we look at the factors that drive success in B2B marketing, with a focus on the people, processes, data, and platforms that make B2B brands stand out and thrive in a competitive marketplace. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom, advising Fortune 1000 brands on MarTech, marketing operations, and CX, best-selling author and speaker. Now let's get on to the show. How do you take a business from a basement office in Queens to a $25 million company without losing the personal touch that made it special in the first place? Joining us today is Fred Meyers, president and founder of Queensboro, a company that has revolutionized the custom logo apparel industry. Fred spotted a market gap while doing laundry in his college dorm room long before e-commerce, fax machines, or even 1-800 numbers were mainstream. What started as a small side project in the late 1970s has grown into a thriving business with over 125 employees, helping small businesses across America build their brands through high-quality custom apparel. Welcome to the show, Fred.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Looking forward to hearing more about this. We're going to get into the details closer to present day in a minute, but why don't you start by just giving a little more. I know I shared a little bit. Give us a little more about your background and how you got started on your journey with Queensboro.
Sure. So I'm a accidental entrepreneur, I would say. I had my business up and running before I even had a chance to think about whether this was something that I really wanted to do. But as you mentioned, the college years were that was where it all started in college. I kind of grew up in a suburb of New York City. I went to school in New York and kind of grew up wearing Lacoste shirts. Those are the alligator shirts. It was a big brand back in the day. It's a big brand now, but I don't think people understand it today the way that it was then, which was a kind of a big social fad. There's a whole preppy handbook, preppy interest that was going on, and these polo shirts were kind of at the center of it. And but I was a tennis player growing up, and I loved to wear these shirts. And as the brand became more identified as kind of a status symbol logo, I became increasingly uncomfortable associating myself with that brand. And but I love the shirts. And you talked a little bit about doing laundry in my college dorm room, and every time I would take one of these shirts out of the dryer and just feel the crispness of the fabric and how it was renewed in the process of laundering, which most clothes get worse in the process of laundering, and these shirts just kept getting better and better and better. I became upset about the fact that I was losing a friend, and the fact that I wasn't comfortable wearing these shirts anymore. And I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be great if you get the same quality shirt as this Lacoste shirt? Because there were those who said it's just about the alligator. If you could put that alligator on any shirt and it wouldn't make any difference. But I saw, by taking the shirts out of the dryer myself, I saw that this was really an outstanding piece of fabric. And wouldn't it be great, I thought, if you get the same quality shirt with anything you want on it, any logo or design. So instead of being a walking billboard for Lacoste and Ralph Lauren and everything those guys stood for, you could kind of be building your own brand. So, I kind of started thinking that it was a personal branding kind of tool that people would respond to. But as I started to kind of put the word out and ran the idea by people, it turns out that like small organizations and businesses, teams, and things like that were also very interested in using the shirts to kind of build team and community in a small group. And that ended up being kind of where the market took us, was more towards small businesses. And we were the first people actually back in 1980 to offer custom logo apparel on polo shirts, hats, these kind of things. And this was, if you went to a country club, you could get a shirt with the country club logo on it, but there was nobody offering that service to the rest of the world. So I'm not going to say I'm like Al Gore and invented the internet, but I kind of did invent this space. And
yeah. Well,
my claim to fame.
Speaking of the internet, as you mentioned, Queensboro started long before, the internet was invented by someone, maybe Al Gore.
Right.
Yeah, it predates the internet, but you've managed to stay relevant through, many decades of change. I mean, we've seen a lot of growth, certainly seen the growth of e-commerce and things. What's been your guiding principle in blending, some of those probably more traditional customer service values from the 80s and 90s, perhaps, with some more modern digital strategies?
So the thing that I was always kind of drawn to is I started getting into business and saw some different opportunities develop in like selling to stores or selling to schools, that kind of thing. I mean, because none of that was, one of my first projects is where we took ads out in the back of alumni college and university magazines and said, buy a shirt with the Stanford logo on it or the University of Michigan logo on it. There was no such thing even as college licensing back then. So the schools were happy to sell us the ads, and we did our thing. But that was a whole different like avenue that I could have gone to. But the thing that I was really liked about the response we were getting from the small businesses is I was developing those relationships, those unique relationships with the buyer, as opposed to selling to a store or that kind of thing. And as it's worked out, our niche is small and medium-sized businesses throughout the United States. Our markets kind of scatter around population, so mostly around the cities. Our customers, which are owners of small, medium-sized businesses, I mean, I had no idea about this going into it, but these are the greatest customers in the world. They're incredibly loyal. They're very reasonable, practical people. Everybody's kind of dealing with the same issues and problems. The consumer market is a little tough. People are a little hard to please. 350 million at a time, but we've developed amazing relationships with our customers. And as the tools have developed, going back to your question, how have you been able to stay relevant? As the technology and the tools have developed over time, I saw in each new evolution an ability to kind of get closer to the customers with speed and accuracy and communication.
Yeah, I mean, so growing, if your target audience was very large companies and you had a few customers and stuff like that, that's one thing. You maintain
right.
few relationships, but your target is small businesses, and yet you've been able to scale and scale quite successfully. Yeah. How do you? It sounds like technology has helped there, but how do you maintain those personal relationships with customers at scale?
So you have to be just super responsive. That's the main thing. The definition of a personal relationship evolves a little bit in the world of e-commerce. So I think whereas in the past when we first started, it was the actual one-to-one, human-to-human was essential, and that's the way we started doing it. You can make that connection now a lot more efficiently with emails, chats, other methods of communicating back and forth through the portals like Facebook and that kind of stuff. So I think to keep that connection, keep it personal, I think the most important component is the speed of your responsiveness. So always, I always kick when I send an email off to a company with a question about something and they respond, you get the form response back. Oh, thanks so much. You're so important to us. Your concerns are our concerns, and we'll be back to you in 72 to 172 hours, you
Right.
know? And it's not like this is a small company, this is like a big company. So
Right.
that just doesn't cut it. I mean, if you reach out, the nature of relationship is responsiveness. If you reach out somebody, you need to hear back really quickly. So I think,
Yeah.
in a word, responsiveness is the answer to the question of how do you maintain those relationships at scale, um, you know, over time.
Yeah.
So
Well, and just more to that point of scale, it's, I'm sure you get inquiries, but there's also I've read Queensboro has more than 26,000 customer reviews. So,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a lot, right? How do you use this feedback? I'm sure a lot of companies would love to have that many that are much larger even, but how do you use this feedback to improve your marketing, your business strategy? How do you use it to your advantage?
So, we're a little bit like sugar junkies, candy junkies in the sense that when we get that hit of dopamine from somebody saying, "Oh, you guys are great, you did a good job," we're like, "How can we do this again? How can we do this again?" So we're all watching these comments. We've got a Slack channel where we're sharing the positive comments that come out throughout the whole company all day long. If a day goes by and there's no additions to that channel, we're all like, "We need our fix. We need our customers to tell us we're great." So that informs everything that everybody's doing throughout the business, not just the marketing team, but the comments are about your quality is so good, that production and the quality control team, like they don't want to be the one that sends out a box that has something in it that's not perfect. Like you're so fast to respond to our questions. We call it our customer experience team, the people in charge of making sure that customer experience is great. They don't want to be the ones that don't respond quickly. The marketing, we get the comments, your prices are good, the variety is so good, I love the quality of products. The marketing guys don't want to like send out stuff, the marketing teams that send out promotions and things that people aren't responding to. I think the answer to the questions, just to keep that communication in front of everybody at all times.
When you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself, talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I also hear, there's a lot of authenticity in so in other words, like you're using, you're basing things off reviews. You're trying to be not just an automated system that again makes somebody wait for 72 hours for an answer, all those things. How do you maintain, there's always this temptation to fake it till you make it, whatever
Yeah.
whatever cliche you want to say is like, there's always that tendency to want to strive for a little bit more, and I think a lot of times it's well intentioned, but there's not necessarily something backing it up. How do you find that right balance of telling authentic stories about your brand and not and making sure that you have something to back it up?
So, I mean, I think it starts with our recruiting process, really, and how we bring people into the business. So, I was in business for probably 30 years or so before it really completely dawned on me that a business will never be better than the people that are working there. Doesn't mean that if it's not a good fit, it doesn't mean they're not good people. They're just not a good fit for your business. So we kind of developed a profile of an ideal employee, and we call it the 4 Ps. We after a little bit of frustration about not doing better, particularly coming out of the recession. That's when we really got focused on what do we need to be better, and started with the people. And so we made a whiteboard. We got the team together, the leaders of the team made a whiteboard, put all the qualities of a great employee on there, and we saw that it kind of sorted itself out into buckets. So the way the buckets ended up, I think the first bucket, it was about like being cheerful and friendly and nice, and that kind of like was positive. And the second bucket was like you're good at your job, and you think about new ways to do it, and that was like productive. And then we kind of saw a theme growing here, so it evolved into what we call the 4 Ps. So like I mentioned, the positive MP, and this is the 4 Ps is what it's kind of like our DNA of the business at this point. And this is how we tell authentic stories, because we're kind of authentic people and don't put results in front of process, and the quality of what we do is not measured by how much money or what we sell, but how authentic we are, how true we are to our values as we do it. The 4 Ps real quick. The first one is positive, and that's about the energy that you bring to a group or your group. So, and there's kind of a positive and negative side on this, and as important it is that you kind of select and recruit for who is bringing energy, is making sure you avoid the people that are taking energy away. And so, that creates a vibe, and works nicely. The second one I talked about is being productive. So obviously you have to be good at the job. You have to be good at your job, because if you're not good at your job, if you don't have the basic skills that you need, you're not going to do a great job. And then another P, the third P, is principled. And we say the principled is treating other people the way you want to be treated. People have all kinds of things they believe and things like that, but on a basic level, it's the golden rule: do unto others. The thing about the principled P, about being principled, is that if you can see somebody treats people the way they want to be treated, you're not going to get any real surprises out of the way they behave, which means that you can trust them. And trust is really the basis of communication. So the principal P is about creating an environment that people can trust each other and be vulnerable when they need to, because that's an important part of growth and learning. So that's the third P. And then the fourth P is proactive, which is just kind of the main example we talk about. The proactive P is if you're walking across the floor, the piece of paper on the floor, trash, do you see that it's there? Do you step on it, or do you stop and do you pick it up and throw it away? So, people are going to have a kind of a different profile on the P's. Some people are going to be more productive, more positive. And we're not saying you have to be a superstar in any of these, but we're saying you have to have all of them to be a great employee. And that's the beginning of how we tell an authentic story at scale. And we've had, a number of thousands of employees over the years. And if you ask any one of them, including the ones that are here today, what's the best thing about working at Queensboro, they'll all say it's the people. We develop tremendous relationships here amongst ourselves, amongst our team. We support each other through thick and thin, and I think that's what allows it to all happen.
Yeah, I love that. Well, as we wrap up here, I want to ask you a couple more questions here. Lots of industries, I would imagine apparel included, there's increasing not only competition, but commoditization and people using greater automation, AI, all of those things. So, what do you think is going to be the secret to your success? And, given all those things, given what you just said about the focus on the people and the authenticity, how do you look at the next few years, regardless of how much, again, AI or other things may come to bear? What are you focused on to be successful in the years ahead?
Yeah, so I think the main thing there is obviously blocking and tackling. You do take care of the fundamentals of business, and you don't lose sight of that. Doubling down on responsiveness. When we first started, we didn't have any competition. We were the only ones doing it, and there's a process of getting a logo transferred to a digital form so it can run on an embroidery machine. We call that digitizing a logo for embroidery. And there was a couple guys in the country that knew how to do it. There was real specialized software. We'd have to take our files, put them or designs. People sent us a business card or something in those days. It was really prehistoric. We'd have to put a stamp on the envelope and send it out to the end of Long Island, where this guy August Carvalho had a business called Designs by August, and he would convert these flat files into embroidery files, and he would send us back a box with 1.5-inch tapes that we ran through the embroidery machines, the tape readers with the designs. We would get busy sometimes, and it would sometimes at the beginning it would take us 6 months to get a design digitized because we just backed up, and that was responsive in 1982. That was responsive. But today, the definition of responsiveness, and Amazon has had a huge impact on that, has narrowed considerably. And the idea of taking 72 hours to respond to a comment is just unheard of. So it's seconds. It's like, how do you create an organization that's instantaneously responsive accurately? That's the thing, is it's got to be accurate, which is the problem with AI. AI is like, it's accurate, 85-90% of the time, but when it's wrong, it's really like embarrassingly stupid. And you've pulled the curtain aside, and you've shown the world there's not a real person here. This is somebody behind a machine. It's always going to happen when it's least should happen. But that's improving your technology. It's improving the workflow, supply chain. Just pounding on all that stuff. So I don't know if we'll ever be anticipatory. Like we can respond to a question before it even comes in, but that's kind of the goal, is to anticipate what somebody's going to ask and answer it before they even do, and that's keep kind of bending towards that dark. So I think that's the answer to that question.
Love it.
And
well, Fred, thanks so much.
Combination of just a combination of man and machine, people and machines working together. So sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Thanks,
yeah.
Fred.
No, I love that. Well, Fred, thanks so much for joining today. One last question before we wrap up. I like to ask everybody this. What do you do to stay agile in your role, and how do you find a way to do it consistently?
So, the biggest motivator and the biggest check on maintaining your agility is to, maintain the relationships that you have with different people in your organization, not just the ones that you're like working with on a day-to-day basis, my CFO, my marketing guys and stuff like that, but my production employees and my receiving employees, because, there's so many amazing stories in their lives and what they're doing. And, whenever you get really busy, as you get more and more busy, you just have a tendency to pull back and silo. And it's like, if you like to exercise and you stop exercising, you're doing something wrong. And you gotta get back out there. And it's like, that's what keeps you agile, I think, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, is maintaining that contact with the various, kind of flavors of the people in your business, and who's important. They're all, everybody obviously has a role to do, but, not just going through the motions, but really connecting with people that aren't necessarily in your lane, your to-do list at the beginning of the day of what you need to do. So that's my kind of secret, and I need to be better at it, even, for sure, because it pays huge dividends. But I'm pretty good at it. Yeah.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'd like to thank Fred Meyers, president and founder of Queensboro, for joining the show. You can learn more about Fred and Queensboro by following the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening to the B2B Agility Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can access more episodes of the show at www.b2bagility.com. That's B2bagility.com. While you're there, check out my series of best-selling Agile brand guides covering a wide variety of marketing technology topics, or you can search for Greg Kihlstrom on Amazon. Until next time, stay focused and stay agile.
The Agile brand.